We are live. What's going on, guys? Welcome back into Blockchain Buzz. We are kicking it off in this crazy cycle we're calling crypto. What the hell's going on, guys? What is with this cycle?
I give up on trying to guess what's happening in this cycle. I've completely given up, thrown caution to the wind, man. I'm sticking to the basics and I'm just riding it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. By the way, guys, this is Shook Focus. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. And of course, the one and only, the great Maximus Crypto. We're waiting for Run My Crypto to show up. He's running a little bit behind, so I'm sure he'll be here soon. So, Max, what's going on, buddy?
Well, there's a lot going on, and first of all, first and foremost, guys, call to action. Give Shook Focus a follow. So honored to finally be with you, Shook. Been a big fan of your work for the longest time. You are obviously a great friend that's part of our communities and so on. So this is my first time ever sharing the stage with Shook. So got an old expression. It's kind of funny. Shout out to you guys that listen to Mob Deep back in, the greatest era of hip hop, the 90s, right? There's
Just
an
aged.
expression. Yeah, there's an expression, it goes, scared to death, scared to look, they shook, because ain't no such things as halfway crooks. So I always would remix that and say, because there ain't no such thing as halfway researchers, right? Researchers. So glad to have Shook on the broadcast. Very, very honored. Very, very pleased to do that. We'll have to do it again. But my attitude is, what you guys have seen in the market and so on. So it's like, what in the heck is going on? We talk about being shook. There's a lot of people being shook as we speak because they see like their investments. They're getting very emotional. And so on my Patreon, I kind of address some of this. And the thing I wanted to point out, without spilling the beans too much, I'm gonna actually just kind of share a brief thing. Yeah, I was on my Patreon, but I want to share just a tad bit about this. It's what Zebec put out, and basically, excuse me, I almost said it's Rue, right? Shout out to Rue. As Crypto Future Rob shares this, are you aware of what Zebec recently came out with the big announcement for major U.S. payments integration coming next week? Now, my bet is what? Well, the thing I talk about all the time. Think of some of you guys talk about all the time. ISO 222. That makes the most sense that they will have this integrated. And the thing I want to point out basically is I did talk about this a little bit. For one, just key sections. All right, so this is a little donation treat to you guys. I said they just teased a major US payments integration come next week. There's no name yet, but all roads point to specifically ISO 222. Why would they not? If you have Simon Babakani coming out with like, yeah, you know what, we want to get this integrated by the end of the year. Well, as the saying goes, pardon my French, shit or get off the pot, because ISO 222, November 22, is coming up soon, and that falls on the weekend. The other thing I want to point out is, again, the clues do screen fed now, RTP or World Pay FIS level rails. That is not some just very small thing. And again, like I point out, we're talking about systems that move 150 trillion plus dollars. As you guys would say, let's go. Or, like even Gary, right? Let's go. Let's effing go. In merchant volume and 11 trillion in payroll every year. So again, we know about Zebec and we know about the whole thing about payroll. We know about the key integrations with ADP. We know of how many countless coincidences there are when it comes to quant network integration with Zebec. Rue and I gave like at least 15, 16, maybe even 20 examples. Those are, it's one thing to have one or two coincidences, but to literally see the partner integrations have integrations with the overledger, that's something. And then I said, it's not DeFi hopium, that's real money. And here's the kicker again, ISO 222. So give me just a moment to elaborate a little bit more about this.
Take your time, buddy.
We've been hammering out the whole thing of ISO 222 as being the new language of global finance. True. We also have seen that there's a character limit of over 10,000 characters compared to the old traditional MT messaging, which is like there's a night and day difference on that. So when they say that this is new data rich environment, well, it's because messages. If you guys have ever dealt with truncation of messages, especially in log files, Time is money, as the saying goes, and especially when it comes to going from, I always use the example, Bank of Greece to Bank of Seoul. You have Bank of Seoul, South Korea has, Korean characters. You have, Greek. So if you guys ever went to college, you're like me. I went to Alpha. I was part of Alpha Beta Kappa was my fraternity. Well, we used, Greek characters or alphabet and so on. Well, even just regular English. All those things get lost in translation. So if time is money, ISO 222 solves that. Zebec isn't just compatible, as the saying goes. They're building it native. Their quarter four roadmap, if you haven't seen it, literally, which came out this month, says full ISO 222 metadata baked into every stream. All right? That means, and look what it says here, I'll highlight it, payroll dripping per second. Again, back to that reference of getting paid per second with USDC, with Circle, instant fiat via 11,000 plus US banks. And there's, of course, the whole thing with CodaPay. We've been there and done that. Invoices with full KYC, AML, data on-chain compliance, cross-border flows that don't just get frozen at Swift, choke points. Now, in my opinion, this isn't a maybe. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but the data in the research point to what I'm explaining to you. Zebec's already live, as we know, with MasterCard, checkmark. Stellar, Algorand, don't forget about that, and they're all ISO ready. So audits are in final review. In my opinion, and this is big, 85% chance or higher they hit the November deadline. All ducks are in the row. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. I'm just a person. But if this integration lands on FedNow RTP, we're looking at, for one, gig workers cashing out same second. We're looking at Walmart/BMW level pilots for compliant payroll streams, which, by the way, myself and Rue have done what? We've shown you the Walmart integrations through things like what? BlueStack API. So that's more than a coincidence. And is there the Amazon side of things with even quant over ledger integration? The answer is yes, because that is called ESO, I believe is what's called. It's basically the same thing as Blue Card API, excuse me. And the price, well, earlier when I posted, this might be different now because the market's been tanking. 0037 post announced targets that I'm seeing is 015, which is a 4x easy, 5 cents plus bull momentum kicks in. But yes, absolutely pay close attention if you choose to do so, or just follow some of these guys that are with us today. Zebec headquarters next week. Hopefully there'll either be a live, I'll be live, or whoever, right? Rob obviously does more lives than me, but it would be a big moment when it comes to this. It's not about FOMO, it's preparing yourself before everyone else FOMO's in, right? Why get on the gravy train when it's already at the top? No, you want to prepare yourself before then. So that's what I'm betting on. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm giving it an 85% chance. We got more we're going to get into. It's going to be a solid outline, solid freaking blockchain buzz. Be drinking that blockchain buzz, baby. So I'll kick it over to either Shook or Rob, whoever wants to take this.
I just wanted to touch on that real quick, and then I'll kick it over to you, Shook. I agree that what you find, the final thoughts are on what you said. We went through this with XCN, right? Like a year and a half, 2 years ago. We went through this. We talked about it, and you want to get in on these plays. Again, it's not financial advice from any of us here, guys, right? We're only here to educate and entertain you. But at the end of the day, getting in on these projects early before this kind of stuff happens, like Max is talking about, that's where the real money is made, right? You don't want to be chasing this stuff when all of a sudden you've got all the largest channels talking about it because it's up 1,100% in 2 months or something like that, like Zcash, right? Who was talking about Zcash 4 weeks ago? Nobody, right? It's up like 1,200% in a month, and all of a sudden the content creators are coming out of the woodwork. It's the same thing with we're looking at with Zebec right now. It already had a bit of a run already, but it's just getting started. And you don't want to be chasing it later after it's up 5, 6, 7, 8, 900%, 1,000%, because it's now ISO 200.2.2 compliant, right? Because all of a sudden all of the XRP content creators are starting to segue into adding Zebec into their videos as well, and into their live streams, right? We know that they talked about a product release potentially this year with Ripple as well, right? So it's the perfect door opening up for a lot of these content. And you don't want to be buying it when they're talking about it, because now you're buying the top, man. Right? What do you think, Shook? Let's kick it over to you. What's up, man?
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, get it early. Zcash is just hilarious to me right now. But you definitely want to get Zebec early. And speaking of Zebec, it's not one that I talk about a lot of very often, but something that has recently kind of made me bullish on it is the super app. Shout out to you guys for bringing that to my attention, because if they are able to put sports betting into the super app, that solves the problem right now. Right? How the news headlines have been crazy over the last 2 weeks for players, college players, NBA players, all going and basically helping cheat the system to make money out of these sports gambling apps. And so you put all that on blockchain where it's all traceable. If Zebec attacks that use case, like it's game over. So
Yeah, I know that Rue really hammers down on the sports betting part of it, and it really is. I mean, I'm a sports guy. Blue Jays. I watch a lot of hockey, obviously, and yeah, sports betting. I'm telling you, like all my friends, all the time, man, all the time with the sports betting. I personally don't. I should probably get into it just for fun, but you're absolutely right, and it's just becoming bigger. It's weird how this generation right now we're kind of in this weird phase where young people like myself, are starting to focus more on finance, right? A lot of people are focusing in on researching crypto projects. What should I be getting into, right? I go get my hair cut. People are asking me, the guy cutting my hair is like, my hair guy is like, hey, what should I be getting into? And then same thing with sports betting, right? It's becoming, that was something when I was growing up that your dads did in their generation, right? It wasn't something that 21-year-olds were talking about and stuff, right? But now it's coming to the forefront. And with Zebec kind of taking the bull by the horns when it comes to this, in a lot of different categories, not just sports betting. Like I've joked about this on almost every stream. Are you kidding me? My grandkids, I don't have any right now, but in the future, in 15 years, my grandkids, maybe 20 years, they're going to be laughing at me saying, dude, you used to get paid like bi-weekly and stuff like that, right?
oh yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm a Zebec holder as well. But I'll leave the deep dive research to you guys on that one. You can't deep dive every project. You just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots that I'd love to look into. I get asked all the time, can you look at this? Can you look at that? Like, man, there's not, God didn't add extra days to the day on Tuesdays. You know what I'm saying? Extra hours to the day on Tuesdays, right? I haven't got no time. What have you been focusing in on lately, Shook? Let us know what you've been hammering down on.
Yeah. So there are two projects right now. One I'm not revealing just yet, but it does start with a Q. It's not Max's project. But the other is, of course, Onyxcoin. And Onyxcoin is one that I've been following because it gives, for me, it allows us to follow sort of the blockchain adoption phase rather closely. And it presents a rare opportunity to do that, especially looking at, so I've been paying attention to Visa's moves. So looking in the history, right, we know, at least publicly, the last thing that we know is that Visa was building its new network on Chain's blockchain infrastructure, right? And Chain is the owner and lead blockchain developer for XCN. And so right now, they're going through their test pilot. Goliath testnet is live. I'll be doing a video on it soon, but with that testnet, they've integrated stablecoins. And if you take a look at what's happening with stablecoins right now, coincidentally, same time, Visa has started moving in stablecoins, and it actually announced it here. I wasn't going to share, but I'll share this one bit here. They actually announced it the day right before, or day that XCN went live with Goliath testnet. Let's see here.
Yeah, while you're looking to share that, I just want to say, the project you're talking about that starts with a Q, let me know what it is privately, because I actually have an interview coming up with someone from a team from project that starts with a Q that's fairly new. So let me know.
All right, will do. So this here, Visa Direct taps stablecoins to unlock faster funding for businesses. And so this was announced September 30th. So that's when we got our Goliath testnet announcement as well. And they speak directly to the use case that XCN solves that they had previously. So cross-border payments, they're getting upgraded here. The way businesses fund cross-border payments, that's when you get into also Visa B2B Connect as well as Visa Direct, which again, we know those were at least historically built on Chain's blockchain infrastructure. And then let's see here, we look into the unlocking liquidity. Shout out to Rob. I know the XCN old crew, we know that liquidity was their focus for the longest of times. And so now they're moving into stable coins here with Visa. It's all about banks. And although a lot of retail covers Onyxcoin and XCN, we have never been their primary focus. Their primary focus has always been financial institutions. They were bank-led directives. So that's where all their backing comes from. And it's just amazing. Also, there's I know we joke a lot. This is one of the unconfirmed sort of hidden hands potentially with BlackRock on November 12th, the same day that Visa made its stablecoin pilot announcement, and testnet is still running. BlackRock has another article that I didn't pull up before the show, but BlackRock also made another blockchain, or not BlackRock, JP Morgan, sorry, made another blockchain announcement on November the 12th, same day. So I don't want to steal too much time just pulling up random articles here today, but yeah, it's following XCN and Onyxcoin allows me to stay really hip to sort of where we are in the blockchain adoption phase. And so it's a project that I don't see myself, many times I try to step away from it. I always come back to it because it's just a wealth of knowledge as a segue into the crypto space. So that's what I'm looking into right now. And I'll definitely let you know about that, the Q project. I can maybe even send you a sample. I have 2 videos right now over on Patreon. I can get those to you, let you see what I'm cooking.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. We got Run My Crypto in the house. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? Sorry, guys, I'm late, man. I was trying to figure this all out, and I got all messed up with the central time.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah,
yeah,
that
sorry about that.
hey, no worries, man. It happens often. I mean, a lot of times I just get texts from guys saying, what time is that my time, or what time is it your time? What are we?
No, I thought
Yeah,
I for some reason I was thinking 5 o'clock. I'm like, and then I seen the link come through, and I'm like, okay, I got some time. And then I was like, what? So I apologize about that, guys. But glad to be here, definitely.
Hey, it's all good,
Uh,
brother. It just shows you're human, and nice to finally meet you, Jimmy. Run my
Absolutely.
crypto. I saw you actually. I meant to comment that you came back live for the first time in many, many months.
Yeah, it's
You were in
been
your car, and I wasn't able to type back or text because I too was going down the road. I don't want to text and drive, but
yeah.
welcome back, man. Really glad to see you. Nice to
Appreciate it,
meet you.
man. Yeah, life happens all the time, and it was crazy. I was having to deal with a lot more. Just life was consuming my time, but you know, your passion always circles back, man, and especially now with the times and what the way that crypto is, and so many changes are happening within this market. It's way different than it used to be, that's for sure. There's a lot of different technicalities, and I always say, like, once these ETFs kicked in, it just kind of changed the game for everything. It seems like it suppressed it a little bit, extended it out. But then again, we have an economy that just needs like major repairing. So that's a big part of it too. And I think they're gonna start doing some of that and getting some of that corrected, which is going to bring more money into 2026, which I believe, and that's why I think we're going to keep extending this market out. But I know we are seeing signs of, like, Bitcoin dominance dropping down a little bit, and maybe some of these altcoins are holding steadily,
Yeah, absolutely. They're talking about a stimmy, right? The
Yeah.
$2,000 stimmy check coming out. I mean, are we about to see a COVID stimmy 2.0 situation going on here? And is that supposed to be what, a monthly thing? Buy every 6 months, annually? Like, oh, I don't know the details of this $2,000 stimmy. I thought they were supposed to start it in like March, but from what I'm being told, they want to do it like next month.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure behind that. I think it's still up in the air on how they really want to go about it. But I mean, it's gonna definitely, bring some money back into the economy. But good old USA, they like to print tons and tons of money. So what what do we do with when we get all that money? We just spend it, right? So I mean,
Hell yeah.
it's it's gonna bring, I think, you know, with there's just I'm just trying to track so many couple different things. Like, I'm hearing that whole there's the whole gold and Bitcoin thing going on, that they're planning to utilize, or to increase the price of gold and buy Bitcoin, which I don't put it past any of these, the government, or they just want to be able to capitalize and monopolize on most money they possibly can. But it's a good thing though for Bitcoin, because the more investors we get into Bitcoin, the more solid crypto becomes. And then hopefully we could get that money to start stimulating Web3 and get that going, because there are a lot of great projects that, um, in my opinion, that with Web3, it can really change the dynamic of of technology going forward, for sure. And right now, basically, crypto, there are some utility in some of these projects, but I think that there's a lot of them that are just priming to come out with that technology, and make a different, a better future for us, because right now everything's really controlled, and then we get into decentralization. I believe it's gonna really give us the upper hand, and be able to, there's a lot of things we can do. We could also make a lot of revenue off of getting really involved in Web3, and utilizing some of this new technology, and that's really important. We've seen it in the past, over the past 3 decades, 4 decades. We've seen how technology really changed the game. So I think this is going to be huge in so many different ways.
Absolutely. I want to go around the table here and ask everybody's kind of opinions on the current status of the market, and whether they think we're going into a bull run still, a bear market, like what's going to happen, what your thoughts are on it. But I just wanted to jump into to the chat just briefly here. We got Cody dropping a super sticker. My guy Cody in the house, the one and only Ruel Black, my guy. What's going on, man? Says my guys, Future Shook and Max. Hello, Run My Crypto. What's going down?
Good to see you,
What's
Rudy.
going on?
Cody also says, smash that like. And Rue says, that time change got me too. He's just always late. Don't listen to him. He knows damn well what time it is. I know he's laughing right now. Let me see if we have any questions in the
In his
chat here.
defense, Arizona's time zone does change twice a year, though. That's very
True.
annoying.
It's true. Yeah.
Half the time on Mountain Standard Time, half the time on Pacific Standard Time. Because
But
they
it's
call it
easier for me to,
Arizona Standard Time. Give me a break. At the West Coast, switches their clocks. We join them for half the year. When they switch it back, we join the mountain time for half the year. So that's Arizona for you. Anyway.
But it's easier for me to just blame Rue, right? So
Blame Rue, right?
he knows I love him. Any questions? Jetpack's in the house. What's going on, brother? We got Wendy, Swoopa.
Hey, Jetpack.
Glad to see you back, Jimmy. There you go, brother. People are happy you're back, man. That means you can't
Appreciate
go away.
you.
You're now contractually obligated to stay online. Sorry, brother.
That's all good, man. I've been preparing for this.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. So let's start with you, Max. What are your thoughts on the cycle? You were telling me off camera that you were telling your Patreon this morning kind of your thoughts and your take on what's going on in the market right now, and so what are your thoughts? What's going on in the market?
Well, I got quite a bit on it, to be honest. I mean, like what I told my Patreon people and so on was the whole idea is like, has the bear market officially started? Oh no, or is this like a shakeout to a utility run after ISO 222? So literally late last night, early this morning, depending on where you're at, I saw the whole market, charts bleeding, you name it, and so on. I looked at CMC. It said that we were down to like, I think 15 extreme fear. We've seen fear, but not necessarily extreme fear, right? And I said to myself, I saw a lot of people staring at red screens and wondering if the bear market just rang like, the saying goes like, hit the doorbell, right? Or if this is basically the final shakeout before ISO 222 rocket fuel hits. And, again, I could be completely wrong on this whole notion of it, but think about this. Back to what I just talked about with Zebec, they have this new integration coming out. I mean, the timeline matches up that they're going to integrate it. Now, we've never seen, again, a utility run in history, and I'm not denying the 4-year cycles because that's just like denying history. Well, why would I dismiss it? But I would like to break it down for you guys just a little bit, kind of like what I mentioned on my Patreon, but again, sharing a different perspective even with you guys. So for one, I do believe the pain is real, no kidding. We saw basically BTC slice through like $100,000 like butter, right? Like, I don't mean to brag, I don't mean to boast, but it's kind of like hot butter on your breakfast toast, baby, right? Let's go. So let's go in a negative way. Well, the total market cap puked. Yes, puked. $1 trillion+ since October. We've seen this. And on a single day, November 12th, wiped out 64 billion in obviously like even leverage positions and so on. That's not a dip. It's the saying goes, that's like a freaking chainsaw, right? Like a chainsaw massacre. But from what I also noticed, whales in Asia have been dumping. You have ETF flows which flip negative for a hot minute. Every altcoin that was quote the next 100x is down roughly what, guys, 70 to 90%. What's the sentiment out there? Well, there's a lot of negative sentiment, but it means multi-year lows. It feels exactly for some people like the FTX situation, like rug pull days, scam Bankman fraud and all that. But I do get why a lot of people have been DMing me, is this it? Well, plot twist, everybody, right? It's basically like this. Why I'm not selling a single yet. Every single bull cycle, as Rob has mentioned, whether it's on his Patreon or whether it's a collab or whether it's just on a publicly live show like you're tuning into right now, every single bull cycle has had these exact moments. If you don't believe us, go back and look in the history if you choose to do so. But BTC did in fact retest 50-day and 200-day moving averages as support, not resistance, check mark. We just had the biggest liquidation event in 3 weeks, check mark number 2, and that's classic at this point, right? There's open interest in alts. They got flushed harder than a frat house toilet at 2 a.m. I know these are corny jokes, but the translation for me basically meant weak hands are gone. But could it tank more? Absolutely. The leverage is reset, and in my opinion, that's a shakeout. Shout to Shook, right? Like, who's getting shook right? At this point, a lot of people. Macro is still screaming bull. You know, I saw some of your streams, my friend. You do an excellent job, Rob, of showing the charts and showing the correlation and studying this stuff, right? You probably do it better than some of anybody else out there. But the way I look at it is stocks haven't topped. Research that. And oh yeah, 7 days away from ISO 222 hard deadline. Now some people say, no, that's going to be, the can's going to be kicked down the road. No, it's not. You know, shout out to Rue. I know you're watching. We cover this. The lady from Santander, literally Santander, Ripple partner, has said, nope, this can is not going to be kicked down the road. This is a hard deadline. They're not doing that. So basically speaking, you know, Swift's empty messages get auto-covered or die on November 22nd. There's a contingency plan that I covered in deep dives on my channel. FedWire already flipped the switch back in March. Don't believe me? Look into that. Banks that aren't ISO ready are about to pay fat friction fees on every single cross-border wire. I'll say it again, every single cross-border wire. So what does that mean? Well, that speaks ISO natively, and XRP, they speak it. XLM speaks it. XDC speaks, HBAR, ADA, Algo, QNT, the hidden X of ISO 222. Find out what that is on our Patreons. There's Metallicus, there's XPR, there's Stronghold, there's SHX. Literally, they purchased or acquired a company called 222 Labs. Literally, it's called that. So these aren't just meme coins, and there's nothing against that because there's opportunity in that too. But these are the new rails, at least in my book. Now, I want to elaborate a little bit more about this. In my opinion, this isn't retail FOMO. This is institutions rotating. I'll say it again. This is institutions rotating. How so? For one, reference this. $421 million flowed into the new ETFs during the dip. Check mark number 3. That's not panic selling, everybody. That's smart money buying the fear. I did it. I reached my goals on QNT. I reached my goals on Swiftcoin. I reached my goals on Filecoin. I reached my goals on a lot of things. I'm not trying to pat myself on the shoulder. I do recognize the fear, and even though Warren Buffett has been always anti-crypto, he has a great quote, and that is, when there's blood in the streets, buy that fear. True. So if we haven't hit the greed phase yet, like no taxi drivers asking about Solana, no, for CNBC pump segments, but the euphoria, in my opinion, is real, but it never showed up. That tells me the cycle top is miles away. Hear me out a little bit more. Here's kind of like what I'm doing, and again, not financial advice. So for one, I do recognize people like Rob. He does his core bags, right? The tried and tested BTC and so on. I'm not the biggest fan of BTC, but I recognize it. Some people even do it with ETH. But for me, it's ISO compliant, right? I've been consistent about that. So for me, it's a hodl, right? Here, hold on for dear life. How many times have you guys heard that? This dip, in my opinion, is your last discount before regulated money floods in. Regulated money. Now, why is that important? Because we know when it comes to GDPR compliance, we know when it comes to SOC 2 compliance, and we know when it comes to ISO 222 messaging, that means rich data. Again, shout out to Rue. I think we talked about this the other day. And even Jesse. Going from the old messaging model of MT with Swift, with very limited characters on that translation of messages, to literally 10,000 characters. You may feel as though 10,000 isn't enough, and maybe at some point we scale it up even further. I don't know. But what I do know is it took over 50 years, since the 1970s, to go from that old model of limited messaging to data-rich messages with ISO 222. And oh, by the way, ISO 222 came out in 2004, invented by Swift, by the way. People don't realize that. By definition, it's called MX, which is ISO 222. And oh, no big deal, this same year, Ripple came out. Call it a coincidence, call it whatever you want. But my real thing is, if BTC is to reclaim $100,000 clean, hear me out, then scale in on alts with utility? So we're going to watch the deadline. We're going to pay attention to November 22nd. People can call it buy the rumor, sell the bullshit. Call it whatever you want. but it's when ISO switch flips. And in my opinion, that's major because the week after, that's when the utility run could very well start. That's my own personal belief. I could be completely wrong on it, but I'm front running it, and here's why. Bottom line, fam, here's where it's at. This isn't this isn't the year 2022. This is 2021 mid-cycle scare tactics, at least in my opinion. The bear market didn't start, it just took the trash out. Stack the fear, thank the weak hands, and get ready for the part where ISO 222 in itself turns compliant chains into the new Swift, not Swift blockchain, nothing but respect on that, but turns into the new Swift as an SWIFT, technically, turns into that on steroids. Until then, breathe. Do just that. Breathe. Zoom out. And remember why you join things like Rob's Patreon, my Patreon, or if you're not a Patreon person, why you tune into shows like this, Blockchain Buzz, and tune into great gentlemen like Jimmy, welcome back, and Shook, because we're here to provide you deep dive research and not fluff. And I'm out for now, at least.
I like that. Takes the trash out. Yes, exactly. And I do have a theory that I've been kind of working on that maybe I'll talk about afterwards, about why I think this cycle is delayed, another reason why. But for now, I'm going to cook it. I'm going to cook it over to Shook. I'm going to kick it over to Shook and see what his thoughts are on the market right now.
For me, the market right now is unexpected buying opportunity. That's the way I look at the market right now. It was we're all kind of, like many others, I'm sure we're sitting there wondering, is my bag of this big enough? Is my bag of that big enough? And go figure, you get an opportunity like this to make that bag bigger, should you choose to. Right now, going along with what Max said, I do believe we're waiting on a lot of the regulation enforcement. With ISO, taking projects like Onyxcoin, one of the reasons they, on paper, brought Chain back was to help them with compliance. And during that same time, they started to get other third parties that help them with things like SOC 2 compliance. Dovu went for its Mika compliance very recently, and they were ones who we thought maybe didn't care about it. Onyxcoin is very strategic in acquiring a European company that was already authorized to trade crypto in custody. So they didn't have to worry about running into regulatory issues there. And a smooth call out from them was Chain can help them with the ISO compliance issue. So I'm leaning very much towards that. We are waiting for some of these different regulations to come in. And at the same time, we could get a mix. I don't know if we'll call it 4-year cycle or if we'll call it utility bull run, but we're probably going to get something, because Swift also, Max just mentioned Swift, September 29th, again, around the time that all these other pilots were kind of going live this year, Swift announced that it was adding a blockchain ledger to its infrastructure. So we have a lot of big name entities building right now. They're not fearful. They're continuing to build, and they're ready for what's coming. So personally, I'm treating it like an unexpected buying opportunity. If we look at 2026, there is a lot of building expected in 2026. Again, shout out to XCN. It's the one that tells me what's happening in the market. They've got their main net coming live in 2026. There's also a number of other pilots that are going live in 2026. So I don't know if we'll call it the 4-year cycle or if we'll call it the utility bull run when it finally does happen. But either way, I'm treating this as a buying opportunity to get ready for whichever one we get.
I actually have a little bit of a theory when it comes to that I've touched on, the whole 4-year cycle thing. And I think that there's a strong possibility that what's happening this time around is really going to end up screwing people over next cycle. And what I mean by that is that right now what we're seeing is similar to C19. We're seeing extenuating circumstances kind of shifting the length of the cycle, right? And I think that what's going to happen next cycle around 2029 is we're going to see a lot of content creators saying, well, the 2025 cycle took 5 years instead of 4 years. So now we're going to project it to be a 5-year cycle instead of a 4-year. So the top's not good. And then we're going to revert back to the 4-year cycle because of the extenuating circumstances not being there, and everyone's going to be bag holders, right? It's just, that sounds exactly like something the market would do to everybody, right? So
That sounds like exactly something Jim Cramer would try to do. All right, let's just be honest about that. I know it's going to get tricky. I do agree with you on a lot of what you just said. My thing, honestly, just the whole concept of utility run, it's untapped liquidity. If you think about like everything that we experienced, right? Not just 2021 bull market and bull markets before that, many cycles. I mean, what are we technically in, a fifth, maybe sixth cycle? I think at least 5 that I'm aware of. So in reality, yeah,
21 fourth.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah,
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my main thing is you don't want to dismiss the history. Of course not. Like I'm a former history teacher. Why would I dismiss history? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But my main thing is, again, untapped liquidity, because when we look more into like BTC and Ethereum and whatnot, that dominance of 80% or more, right? I think it's always been 81, 82%, give or take. No, we don't dismiss it. We don't dismiss it at all. But again, it's the access to liquidity. I look at those as being the strongest of retail liquidity. Like those were pilots for retail. And then of course in what, 2024, 2025, you finally saw your BlackRocks come over. You saw people outside of even them, right? Institutions saying, yeah, we're gonna lock up some BTC long ears, not just Michael Saylor beating the drum to death to his own beat, but my thing is, again, untapped liquidity. So when I see people that they say, I believe in utility, there's another side I see to them where it's like, I don't know if you're actually standing by what you say, because then I see people get emotional with that, and it's just like, again, the utility, it hasn't really truly been used. Even, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan like XRP and some of the stuff, but we haven't seen that fully be used. I mean, like on-demand liquidity should be like the biggest faucet just gushing into like an Olympic-sized swimming pool, if you will. But in reality, currently speaking, because regulations aren't fully there, it's just like a leaky faucet, if you will. It's just a few drops. And ironically, Ripple's called what? Like the little drops. So I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's not just Ripple, right? It's Stellar, your Hedera's, I mean, Swiftcoins, your Onyx, you name it, right? None of this stuff has been at its full potential. So would that throw off the cycles? My answer, and I say this politely, is yes, because all it is untapped liquidity. If the dominance, I mean, think about it for yourself, Rob. If we go from 80% of that liquidity being trapped obviously into BTC and Ethereum, and then now you have a major shift where, holy cow, look at all this untapped liquidity. Well, what if that does represent, and I know this is a big figure, but what if that represented a new figure like maybe 30, 40%? Well, that would throw a wrench into the whole thing of the 4-year cycle. But again, I don't want to dismiss it at all, because when's the final BTC mine? The year 2145 or something like that?
I will be long dead.
I know, but I mean, we talk about generational wealth, so if we played our cards right, we prepared things for the next generations and generation. But again, I just see so much, again, people getting shook out. No pun intended to you, shook, but
don't get shook.
Yeah, that's what's going on. It's like, will this continue to happen? I think, Rob, you're right. They will start late 4-year cycle. Let's see how this aged. The 4-year cycle. You heard it from Rob first, right?
Clip it.
5-year cycle. Yeah.
Shout out to Ducks in My Pond. Man, you're running out of ducks, brother. He says, I don't think Jasmy would be starting the Janction engine and invite Rob to Japan if we're entering a bear market. Plus, sniff, I have the superhuman ability to smell money around the corner, so it's obvious to me that it's coming. There you go. Yes, good point. One thing that's always kind of perplexed me in regards to Hara, and I'm gonna get to you, Jimmy, in a second about your thoughts on the market. I just don't want to lose this thought. is that I've never seen somebody accused in this asset class as much as he is about not being transparent, yet at the same time he is the busiest man, Hara, that is, in the crypto space. I've never seen a CFO or CEO of any crypto company do as many appearances, lectures, AMAs. I think last year I counted them. He did like 22 or 23 AMAs. And I was just like, what other, I mean, other than Charles Hoskinson, but he doesn't really do like AMAs. He's just online talking about whatever pisses him off, really, right? Outside of that, right? Nobody is as transparent as Hara is, in my opinion. When it like he tries to answer everything, and he's always out there doing AMAs, doing public appearances, and he cares. I mean, people think he doesn't care. Let me tell you something. I've been talking with Hara for a couple of months now because he invited me down to Jasmy Labs, as you guys know, to film a mini documentary series on Jasmy, right? I leave next Thursday, I want to say. So, but he went as far, so we had this planned out for November. He went as far as to reach back out to me out of nowhere at the end of near the end of October, just to make sure that I was coming, like when I was coming down for sure, the solid date, because he was going to be in Dubai the first week or so of November. Now, the fact that he thought that it was important enough to reach out to me, just some YouTuber, and, give me that respect, like, I'm sorry, but that's a man who cares about his community and stuff like that. That says I give a crap, right? Many CEOs would have just completely forgotten I even existed until I showed up, and they probably said, "Oh yeah, I forgot you were coming," right? so, yeah, to me that says that the man cares, right? And I'm
Well, it's
really
in their
looking forward
culture
to.
too. I mean, Japanese culture is to show honor and respect. So, um, that is awesome though. And
Yeah,
Jimmy, I know you wanted to do a response. I just want to add this real quick because I did see the super chat. So, I do agree with a lot of what Ducks in My Pond mentioned. The only thing I would say, and this is not me stepping on your toes, brother. Thank you for supporting Rob. I will point this out. So, Jasmy did a public launch late 2021. I believe it was either October or November. So really, right around the height of last bull market, going into the bear market. Because as we know, 11/11/2021 was where BTC went to 69K, which that was the big all-time highs all the way up to basically this year. So it's not like they won't do that. Things happen. Now, does Hara recognize, basically, like we could be going to utility run and real utility will be used? I think he does. And at some point, if we have time, I don't know how late we're going to go with this, but there is a few key things I want to get into in regard to Jasmy, Janction. I do want to get Jimmy's 2 cents on some of the Janction things going on, because I did hear your perspective about you use like you said something about the layer 2 as being like an engine being paired up with something else, obviously with Jasmy, and the two kind of complement each other, which I do agree. But maybe again, Hara recognizes that, because again, Janction is very complementary to even things like NVIDIA. And now we've seen from, I think, Mr. Jensen over at NVIDIA, he mentioned that, yeah, guess what? We're going to go, China is now, America and China 0% with NVIDIA. And it's just like, we lost all that market share, which sucks. Well, what would be the new shift? The new shift would be recognizing what Japan's going to do. What are those other Southeast Asian countries going to do? So is that untapped liquidity for those markets in that region? I think the answer is yes, but kick it over to either Jimmy or you, Rob, whoever was supposed to take that question.
I'm going to go ahead and just say that for this question, I don't know, Jimmy, if you know anything more about this, but from what I understand, the whole U.S. passport thing doesn't have anything to do with Jasmy, but they did announce that the My Number card, there's a whole article that came out today that I planned on going through later tonight in a live stream, breaking down the whole usage of the minor. I think 79% of Japan citizens have the My Number card at this point, and they're talking about, like, we've covered all this before, the integration of the healthcare system, right? People's instead of carrying around a health card, your health information is all going to be on your My Number card, your driver's license, your bank accounts. It's all going to be one thing. And yes, this is all powered by the PDL, right? Jasmy's Janction's PDL, personal data locker, which keeps all of your information from getting leaked out, right? So, um, what are your thoughts, Jimmy? There's a lot to get through, brother.
I mean, how do I follow up with all that knowledge right there? And I'm pretty much in alignment, man. I think that just to keep it short, I don't think we've even tapped into the peak of this bull run. I think there was too many moving parts this time around, and a lot of people were emotional, especially with Jasmine. You had to have some real tough skin to get through this last year. We seen that December pump that came up. And I think, my take on it was I thought we were going to continue going up and, see some big gains. And, I was expecting Jasmine to be in the 10-cent area, especially right now. And then we seen, obviously a pullback and pretty much across the board. I looked at it every, my portfolio, to be exact. I mean, it just, it gained and lost, and pretty much, everything was happening for every project. Doesn't matter what it was. It was a 4 to 6x pump. People celebrated, especially if you're stacking up for a year or so. And I think what happened was is that it corrected itself and it pretty much drug out through the entire year. We're here on the cusp of November, December, where it's been a year since they seen some really significant action and price movement within Jasmy. I think a lot of the Jasmy holders were expecting the Jasmy to again bring some utility, but then just like Maximus said, the utility is all speculation right now. There's really not a lot of utility behind any coin. It's not necessarily speculation, but it hasn't, it's basically like just looking at concept cars. We have an idea of what it looks like. It looks beautiful. It does, has all these features, has all these, it has everything that we want, but we're investing in that car to go out there and blow the market out, but we can't see what it does until you know Web3 kicks in, or whatever it takes to see all these projects that have all this great vision start coming to fruition. And I think my take on it is that we'll see. So I think we'll see some action going into 2026. And again, there's you guys covered the informational side of it, but financially, I think that the economy is probably gonna make a little bit of a recovery in 2026, and I think we'll start to see more money coming in because across the globe, everybody's positioning themselves to really utilize crypto. I mean, everybody's either trying to stack Bitcoin as much as they possibly can, or, dumping it a little bit to just capitalize off of it. But at the end of the day, I think that, everybody's out, is all these institutional investors are out to make as much money as they possibly can. That's what it is. I mean, we can't deny that fact that that's not what it is. But in my opinion, like, it is a great opportunity. Like when I see these markets bleeding out and then correcting maybe 5 to 10%, 15, 20 max, there it's just like, it's a great opportunity to continue dollar cost averaging, building in what you believe in, and setting yourself up for success for the future, because at some point in time these coins that are down, with the lower caps are going to become transparent to everybody. They're going to see it, and it's like I try to tell people all the time. it's hard to go after Bitcoin. It's hard to go after Ethereum. You're talking about coins that are, valued at, a really high amount of money, and buying, trying to toss like $200-300 a month into something like Ethereum is tough. Trying to toss it into Bitcoin, forget about it, right? But my take is that I think that this market is different from every other. It is going to extend to a 5-year cycle. It is going to skew the next cycle coming forward. I think it's going to, it's really going to, there's going to be a lot of impact, positive, negative, but the ones that truly believe and have conviction on what you're really investing into, they're going to be the ones that are going to prosper. So I do believe the current market state, opportunity to buy as much as you possibly can. When I look at the prices of these coins, I'm like, oh my Lord, like this is this is like Black Friday all year long. And if you don't understand that, then you guys are taking advice from the wrong people. Now's the time to accumulate and buy as much as you possibly can of these projects that have a lot of future vision ahead, something that's going to really change what we do as human beings in the future. And that's what I'm looking at. AI's little, it's fluffy. um, I do think there are some great AI projects, especially like Janction. How Janction's coming out, they're kind of mirrored with like something what Render would do, and it's
I'm
just
glad you brought that up, Jimmy, because I actually have a little brief segment that will elaborate on that. But I like how
go for it, go
you
for it,
mentioned that.
man. Take the
Well,
mic,
I also want
brother.
to respect that there's a guy here who brings nonstop alpha. His name is Shook Focus, and he just kind of been patiently listening. So, what are some of your thoughts on a lot of what we're talking about? Shook, let's hear a little bit from you, and then we can get into some of that other stuff in a bit.
I'm sucking it all in right now on Jasmy. I've been patiently waiting for Rob's trip to go meet Hara so I can check that out. So Jasmy is one that I've also it's been an emotional roller coaster. I've been part of the Jasmy emotional roller coaster. Not really worried about it though. But I just wanted to give a thank you. I was watching the comments here. I saw Ducks in My Pond with that big super chat to Rob. Ducks in My Pond is also a member over on my community, so I didn't realize he also watched Rob. So thank you, shout out to you. And then the other comment I saw was someone mentioned they're in XCM, they're down 70%. That's a tough pill to swallow. But all I would say to that is if you're not actively, not financial advice, of course, but if you're not actively DCA and you're not getting yield on it, it's a kind of a wasted opportunity, in my opinion. But
Yeah, you can even stake your XCN through the Onyxcoin protocol right on your decent wallet too. Like it's such a no-brainer. Um, but yeah, we got a super chat here from Lord of the Realm. It says, love it when you guys get together and talk. Jasmy, appreciate the knowledge bombs you drop for us. God bless. Absolutely. Max, before you jump into what you were going to talk about there in regards to Jasmy, I just wanted to touch on what Jimmy said. He brought up Ethereum, and I've long had this. I don't know if it's necessarily a theory, but just I often bounce this around in my head. Now, had the SEC and Jay Clayton not gone after XRP the way that they did, and at the same time strapped rockets to Ethereum's bootstraps by giving them legal clarity, right? Um, I often wonder if Ethereum would be the number 2 crypto today had that not happened, or would projects like XRP and Solana be ahead of Ethereum in terms of market cap? I mean, would a lot of these projects that build on Ethereum, would they have been building on the XRP ledger and stuff like that? It's just something I kick around on a regular basis. Like I could, because I truly don't think that with its fees, like it's expensive, it's slow. I would have to think that at that point in time in the crypto cycle, I think that stuff like XRP and Solana would have probably gotten a far more far more of a head start. Ethereum, basically, in my opinion, is trash, and it would only be where it is today. The only reason it's where it is today is because Jay Clayton strapped rockets to its boots and said it was legally okay to buy it. That's it. Crypto
Yeah.
Crossroads says the market hit the floor. Now everybody is chicken. If we don't risk it now, we can really say we're living. Stay focused. Shook focus.
Wow.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Crypto Crossroads. Yeah,
Nice rhyme.
on that same kind of point, a lot of these lower utility cryptos, sort of the thing that we don't talk about much is they do need some control of the supply. And if you use the example of XRP, if XRP was blown out completely to retail, in terms of supply, they would have a little less control over what happens with the project. So I do think that some of it is kind of we're not, this project doesn't want the limelight, so to speak. And I have seen that a few times in crypto where projects just don't want to be talked about at the time because they don't want that much fluctuation in price, because it can actually cause issues with some of the utility they're trying to build if they don't have control over that supply.
Rob, it's funny you mentioned the whole thing about like Ethereum and whatnot. A lot of people don't realize it, but years ago, many, many years ago, Vitalik Buterin, before he was, or actually when he was still technically a miner, I believe Ripple was only like 2, maybe 3 months away from him turning of legal age. They could have had him part of Ripple. I don't know if anybody really looked more into that, but it's crazy to see the shift, right? It's kind of like some people are like, oh man, that would have been the greatest thing. But I look at like, no, because I doubt I would have been around then to acquired things like Ripple, because I've only been in crypto with altcoins since early 2021. Technically BTC in 2016, but I don't really count that because it was only in BTC. But my thing is, yeah, we were so close to that. And so, I mean, even though the whole thing with the SEC happened and whatnot, in reality, when you really look into it all, it's just kind of like blessings in disguise because we know where some of this stuff is going. You mentioned the whole thing of obviously Ethereum. I mean, you said that like it's garbage. Yeah, I mean, if you look at like even Stellar, you look at on the surface of what Stellar is doing with Sorbonne, especially. Everything kind of matches up with what Ethereum already did. What's the difference? The difference is, again, going with the, I don't even know if I want to call it the Pony Express. Maybe I go a little bit higher than that. Maybe I go like you're going with a Ford Model T to like maybe like a Ferrari or something like that, right? But again, smart contracts, that's all there. So in the future, I literally look at Stellar like this, kind of like how you should look at Ethereum. So traditional ETH, right? ETH as the ticker symbol. I look at like, Ethereum went to close to 5 grand, give or take. Well, how many ERC smart contracts are there? That's still the most popular one out there, technically speaking. So as far as smart contract dominance, that obviously takes the cake. We do know that most meme coins, you can basically deploy them. What is it, guys? Something like 45 seconds to a minute. You have a ERC20 meme token out there. But that's not the point. Again, if you look at Stellar, I think you should treat it like in the future. I don't know exactly how soon. I'm not a fortune teller. But you can look at Stellar like XLM will be kind of like how ETH is, but it would be the next era of innovation. So I would hold XLM. Well, then there's a whole slew, if you want to call them like XLM, or actually XRC 20s, or I don't know. I have to look into all the terminology because then there's XDC. But again, there's going to be a whole slew of those smart contracts and those ecosystems built on Sorbonne. So they'll be the new dominant ecosystem moving forward. Faster technology. If I'm not mistaken, I think Stellar either ranks first or second, give or take, for the lowest fees. I mean, we're talking like, was it like 0.4 of a penny, or maybe it's either 3 or 4 zeros, 2 are the fees. We compare that to, you know, Ethereum. I mean, there's no difference, and I'm not the only one that's ever harped on this. I get that, but again, these ecosystems, they're really building out an ecosystem. I remember Rue was talking about. He's like, when XRP was flying, everybody was like, yeah, XRP, but it's like, oh, look how Stellar too. You know, they really had huge gains. So again, I kind of look at it from that perspective of XLM will be the new dominant one moving forward. They will have lockups. One was it half the supply of XRP, but then there's another one that's right above Shook's head, which is called Swiftcoin, which literally has 1/5 the supply of XLM and 1/10 the supply of XRP, with 100%, if I'm not mistaken, in circulation. So then there's that, and that's the one, in my opinion, that has the best sale. If you know, people talk about backing up the truck. I did back up the truck at 0.055, and now we're in the where are we at, Shook? At the 4/8 or something like that, I think.
Yeah, pretty close. I was a buyer at around the same price you just mentioned. But Swiftcoin, since you mentioned it earlier, when I mentioned that Swift was integrating blockchain into its infrastructure, one of the banks that are part of that pilot is Mizuho Bank. And if you're not familiar with it, Mizuho Bank was basically Swiftcoin's target. They got done building their project. They wanted to present it to a bank. They went straight to Mizuho. And that allowed them to kind of get conversation with China and such. Swiftcoin, definitely a buying opportunity. Also implemented loans this year. This has been a huge building year for a lot of different these crypto projects that have been around for a lot of years. But yeah, Swiftcoin, definitely a buying opportunity.
I'm glad you brought that up about Mizuho. I remember doing a long outline with Rue. I don't know if Rue's still watching, but we talked about the correlation of Mizuho Bank, not just with Swift, but actually with Jasmy. And then we talked about Sumitomo. We talked, you know, a few other ones. Obviously, there's SBI, but yeah, there was correlation there. A lot of interesting things to get into.
Yeah, 2048. Yep, good call, Max.
Nice.
I got a response to the whole Swift thing, but before I get into the chat here, yeah, I look at Swiftcoin, and listen, I might be biased. It's like depending on the price of it, it's in my top 3, right? Sometimes it's my number 1 bag, sometimes it's number 2, depending on the fluctuations. But so I do have that for full transparency. But I look at Swift. It's another one of those projects that, like your XCNs, like your Zebecs, before it goes on a monster run, it's an amazing opportunity. And then same thing we talked about earlier. It's going to go on like a 500% run at some point, probably in the next few months. And what's going to happen? Content creators going to come out of the woodwork. Oh, we've been talking about Swiftcoin forever. We've been, oh, we love Swiftcoin. It's like, no, you haven't. And people, and here's the thing I would encourage followers, right? People on YouTube, viewers, don't let that bother you guys. That's actually a good thing, right? Because what they're doing is you're getting into this project at current prices. And then when you see these other content creators, while on one hand, it's like it's defensive because they never talked about it before, and all of a sudden they're jumping on the train. That's fine. That's no different than like, being a sports fan is like everyone wants to jump on the winning team's kind of bandwagon, right? But what they're doing is they're exposing their followers to a project that you're already holding, pumping your bags, right? So you got to look at the positive in it for sure. And Swift's going to melt some faces for sure, in my opinion.
Well, but also, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to give a shout out there to Ghettoborn real quick. Sure. Thoughts on XDB partnership with Alchemy. 2 fantastic projects. You guys know Max and Rue and I, we talk about XDB on the Patreon live streams and stuff like that. So very bullish. And Alchemy Pay, great project. Nothing but positive thoughts on that partnership. So go ahead, Max.
All I was going to say is, Shook knows what I'm talking about when it comes to this. So, I think it's also like, again, it sounds like maybe I'm trying to defend the ones that are going to hop on the gravy train with Swift when it blasts off and be like, oh yeah, we covered this all the time. But reality did. It's not about that, politely speaking. But when we do cover Swiftcoin, we see you guys in the comments. Don't think we don't. Some of you guys get frustrated, like, how come you guys don't cover Swiftcoin on a regular basis? Put yourself in our shoes. It's one of the hardest ones to cover on a regular basis because they don't come out with a lot of news. Again, back to what Shook was talking about. They're building. When you're building, you kind of shut up about that, right? So, so you have to get creative. Like, you know, like, who was the underdog? Cover a lot, you know, not just him. You know, the whole thing like MetaPath. All right, that's something that not a lot of people talk about, like the MetaPath connections, or, you know, shout out to Rue. Like, Rue is like the walking two-legged encyclopedia of like Tim Draper and Draper Associates and Draper Venture Capital. And it's like the guy knows everything Draper, right? I even took notes, right? Even though I covered Draper as well. But you got to get creative about the connections. Well, that's not new news, but why point out some of those things? Here's why. Real quick, just in case you're first time tuning in. Who is really Tim Draper? Oh, no big deal. Just the culprit and backing seed money of the richest man in the world. Well, technically, I mean, you know, maybe Putin is, but I'm saying as far as by, you know, mainstream, you know, legal terminology, it is, right? It's Elon Musk. So he was helped out with seed money. I'd be totally be paying attention to that. And it's just like, okay, the North America, what's it called, blockchain alliance, you know, NAFTA, I can't abbreviate it right, but that blockchain alliance, that's in Washington D.C. And you know, Rambo Land just happens to be the CEO of that, or chair with that, I should say, with NAFTA, and he happens to be CEO of Swiftcoin. So the correlation there, like, these are the things that we should be paying attention to. But it's, again, it's like, what will most researchers do? And I don't blame them, because I do it too. You're going to go to their X. You're going to see if they've posted anything. And in reality, they don't really post a lot of what they're doing. Once in a while, you get a nugget, like Bridgers. Here's what we're doing with Bridgers. We got this new integration. Okay, cool. But they don't have a constant thing they're releasing every day, like, hey, we got this thing going on with, you know, BlackRock or whoever. No. But here's my main takeaway, and I do want to get Shook's point of view on this. Shook, I'll put you on the spot, brother. It's in my humble opinion that when it comes to Swift blockchain as an SWFT, everybody, it has nothing to do with SWIFT. You got to put that disclaimer out. It is in my humble opinion that when we saw earlier this year of Swiftcoin going to 2.5 cents, again, the unbanning of BTC, the temporary unbanning of altcoins, that thing went parabolic. So are we going to be oblivious to say it's never going to happen again? And we understand US, China, you know, this tiff that we have, relations are not the greatest, but why not prepare yourself for when things do eventually get better? And why not prepare yourself if Xi Jinping and, you know, the Chinese Communist Party says, you know what, with all this stuff going on, we need to be part of the Web3 movement. It's in my opinion, Shook, that Swiftcoin, yes, Swiftcoin, because it's literally their main utility is called Bridgers. It's the XRP of China, literally, or Asia. Not to be confused with Conflux, because in reality, that's the Polygon of Asia. It's in my humble opinion that they get first movers advantage over all else with the unbanning, because we've already seen it. Do you feel the same way? I've actually always wanted to get your 2 cents on that, Shook.
I'm gonna absolutely. So Swiftcoin, one of the unique things about it, and using just one bank, Mizuho, if we don't even try to dive into what other banks they may be using, Mizuho has a global presence like no other. It's the number 14 bank globally. So we're talking about a lot of money here. They have a presence in Latin America. Swiftcoin was built in North America. They have a presence in China. When they went to Japan and talked to Mizuho, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce wanted to talk to the Swiftcoin team, and they went and met with the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. So Swiftcoin is seated in a lot of places. When they went to Japan, they did a very historical piece on Japan because they wanted they wanted a piece of that Japan market. Japan is one of the biggest buyers of US debt, for those who don't know that. So Japan holds a large play in the global economy. So Swiftcoin made it a point to go and get to Japan. Also, when we had the announcement, it was either earlier this year or late last year, we had the announcement about BRICS choosing to go off the typical means of trade into their own blockchain network. We saw Swiftcoin also get a pump. So Swiftcoin it's definitely working globally right now. And because it can, very much like XRP, it can transact or trade any asset. That's what that MetaPath brings to the table with Swiftcoin. Because now you can take an NFT and swap it for any version of fiat, or NFT for NFT, or choose to collateralize it and loan off of it. And being that it's been embedded in these nations that are running all the CBDC pilots, that's the other thing with it. It very much has first mover advantage over a lot of different projects. And I do believe, like everybody has said here today, Swiftcoin is definitely going to melt some faces. It is my number 3 project.
I feel like the fact that they integrated a lending protocol was vastly under talked. Like no one talked about it really, right? Like it completely flew under the radar.
Yeah, Swiftcoin is, and the fact that they make it a point to continually test themselves. So something they do in sort of the Twitter or X space that's very unique is they go and they follow any project that is announcing themselves to the blockchain space, whether it's a meme coin, whether it's utility coin, and they are trying to get that project to work with bridgers to prove, hey, we can transact anything. So if you got a meme coin, they'll reach out to you. Shout out to Stock Holiday. He did that Holland meme coin. He also Swiftcoin or Swift Blockchain started following him. So Swift Blockchain is they're looking to be able to transact literally anything. And they also the fact that they took that extra step to go to the actual Swift to say, hey, we would like this. We would like to operate with this name. And freaking dog here. We would like to operate with this name, and we want you're okay to do it. And they got a blessing from Swift to continue operating under that name. And Swift could take a lot of damage for letting somebody do that. So the fact that they were confident enough to let Swift Blockchain continue with their plan, I can't even really put words on that.
Yeah, another angle that I come at Swift from is also that, and Max has heard me talk about this. I believe that, what they're trying to do with Bridgers right now, and when Bridgers does decide to come into the US, I mean, a lot of people are confused. They're not, it's not that they weren't allowed to operate inside the US, is that they didn't want Gary Gensler coming after them and shutting them down for servicing American citizens, right? As long as they're operating outside. But now that we have legislation being passed for DEXs and centralized exchanges to be able to come into the States, I think it's a game changer across the entire U.S. I mean, obviously, state by state, some governors, whatever they're called in the States. I don't know. I'm in Canada, so senators, right? Or whatever states, congressmen, leaders of each states, right? Some of them are going to be douchebags, obviously, and not be crypto friendly. But the point of what I'm getting at is that I believe that Swift is more of Bridgers is more of a game changer when it comes to next generation kind of DEXs and swaps, where we need to get to a point if we want to see true retail adoption in crypto. It needs to be click, click, done. And Bridgers being, the all-chain bridge, cross-chain, people need to be able to operate that are not tech savvy. And the only other way to avoid having to go through your banks is to have all of the other DEXs and stuff like that, decentralized exchanges, operating in a very user-friendly, non-tech savvy way like Bridgers does, in my opinion.
And Rob, that actually is a fantastic point, because the other thing with Swift blockchain that not a lot of people talk about is they also targeted hard wallets. So you want to talk about access to the front line. So AVAIL, which is a wallet that one of the many wallets that I use, but AVAIL has Swift blockchain's technology built into it. So that trade from asset to asset and routing to get to different assets is already working in a hard wallet. So Swift Swift blockchain has been very strategic, in my opinion, and quiet with their moves. So it is, you talk about that opportunity, first stab at retail and the markets in general. Yeah, Swift blockchain is set up fantastically.
Yep, it's just a matter of time. Get into these super chats real quick. Crypto Crossroads says Swift is working with a top German bank as well. Nice. Which bank is that? Fridge says, appreciate all the work and time you guys put in. If it weren't for learning from Rob, I would have probably sold everything out of fear. Nice. Well, yeah, got to hodl through the hard times, man. What are you thinking, Jimmy? What are you thinking? You've been kind of quiet over there, brother.
Nah, man, I'm just taking it all in, Apologize for going out. These kids, man, family, they just, they're needy.
I got,
But
I got, I got six of them, brother. I get it.
yeah, I got four. So they're always like, Dad, Dad. I'm like banging on the door. I'm like, oh, not now. I already told you. But now I'm soaking it all in, I mean, with Swiftcoin, I haven't been dived into it as deep as you guys. But listening to everything making me want to just go bag it up right now because it's on sale. And I've been most of my focus like too has been on these lower cap projects because it's like I always say, it's a great time to capitalize on all these because there's a lot. I get how the top, top 10, top 20, top 50, they made a name for themselves already, but at the same time there's a bigger scale for people to position themselves to be successful in crypto by picking up these lower cap gems. And Swiftcoin, yeah, I think, based off of what I'm hearing, I'm like, it sounds like they are like the next XRP, but on a discount. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of knowledge that you guys have, and much respect to that. Like I always said, when I first started watching Rob, um, he was the one that always really pushed me and influenced me to like want to dive deeper into what I'm researching. And then I seen Maximus. I'm like, man, how do I compete with these guys? But not even like that on that type of scale. But like, how do I put in that type of work, man? I mean, just I think I shouted you guys out a few times, just out of respect, because the work you guys put on or put in, and just nobody could really steer you guys away from what you truly believe in with these projects. I mean, just even shook, it's just you guys have that, it's the preparation, the research. This is the type of knowledge that I think everybody needs to put out there versus just saying, "Hey, Jasmy's going to $17," and it's crazy because people rather hear that crap than to really hear the gist of what these projects are really made of. Like what this project's essentially going to bring um to new tech and stuff like that. So it's a challenge out there to do what you guys do, and I think this is just to you know thank you guys for allowing me to be here. And then just being in the same platform with you guys is an honor, man. And you guys just hats off to you three for putting in that type of work, and the research and the knowledge that you guys could bring to people it's extremely notable.
Well, we all appreciate that, brother. And hey, we
Yeah,
watch you
thank
too,
you.
man. We watch you too. It's funny you mentioned that though, that the whole research aspect of it, and I can always tell who actually looks into the projects they're buying and who just buys stuff because some YouTuber told them about it, whether it's me or someone else. Because here's the thing, I always tell people this. I'm sure you guys probably have too. You can get conviction in a project, whether it's Jasmy or Swift or Zebec or XCN or anything else. But you can feel confident in it to go and buy it because Shook said some good stuff about Swift or Max did a deep dive into Quant or whatever the case might be, and you're like, yes, I'm going to buy that project, right? This guy jacked me up on this. I'm jack stacked fanny pack. Let's go, right? But the thing is, that's artificial conviction, right? Because the second there's a little bit of resistance or static in your investment, there you are online and you're saying, is this going to zero? Is it ever going to come back? Is it dead? As soon as you read some FUD somewhere, you're immediately shook, pun intended, right? Immediately. And that doesn't happen to you if you do your research in the projects that you're investing your hard-earned money into. Because the second that you see some Yahoo on X posting something derogatory about Jasmy or Swift or whatever, right? You've done your research. So the second you read it, you go, wait a minute, that's not true, right? This guy didn't do any research. You know that he didn't do any research in what he's saying, right? Because you did do yours. So then it's easy to not be scared when you do your research because you know
No.
what's real, you know what's not, you know what BS is, right? And you can come to me or Max or Jimmy or like whatever to get a boost of bullishness. I need my daily bullishness, Rob, whatever. But you still got to keep up to date on what's going on with your favorite projects.
100%. And that's one of the things where with Swiftcoin, with XCN, like much like Max, I get a lot of people who say, hey, why don't you cover Swiftcoin anymore? And that's part of it, right? I don't want to be one of those content creators who are out here just making up stuff so that I could put a video out.
Right, exactly. I want to add to that just real quick. It's like people are accustomed to your daily, like what Rob said, your daily fix of, bullish. Come on, man, I got to hear more of this every day. But you have to treat the research, especially with something with Swiftcoin, like, I hate to say this, like, there's other projects where it's like your Chinese buffet line. It's not the greatest quality, right? You ever been to a Chinese buffet? Not exactly the greatest quality, right? But whoa, there's a lot of it. And there's a lot for everybody, right? And those crab puts might have been sitting in that little tray for a while, and they're not exactly as, they're not, kind of sketch at this point, right? But Swift blockchain, it's like with Swiftcoin, we come out with updates. It might not even be once a month, and people are like, man, I'm hungry for it. Think about why you're hungry for it. You've gotten the buffet of all the other crap. But now when you get Swift blockchain with Swiftcoin, it's like, what is it? Here's your gourmet meal. It's fresh, right? And that's kind of like the way I look at it. It's like you're not gonna get that daily dose. And I talked about this with Rue, and he feels it too. He's just like, yeah, man, you got to get creative when it comes with it. Like we got to research Ramble Lamb. Look, what's Ramble Lamb doing? Well, what's the North American Blockchain Alliance doing? What is Tim Draper doing? Is there any hints of what he's doing in China or Southeast Asia? Again, the unbanning of BTC possibly, or all. So those are the things we have to talk about. But once in a while, Swift blockchain, they do post on X about here's what's going on with Bridgers. But I get it. The struggle's real, right, Shook? Struggle's real.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I got that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do sometimes, I do a short every couple of days, just tracking the price action of Swiftcoin. And holy smokes, do those shorts get a lot of views. I'm just letting you know the support and resistance levels, but people just, like, I need it, right?
You're like the only one doing TA on Swiftcoin, so yeah, man.
Well, it's crazy too. Like I got it too, because like I was doing Jasmy like over a year and a half ago or something like that, and then like nobody was even talking about Jasmy. It was just like, and I think it was 2022 when I first started to like look at it and try to understand it, and then I'm like, well, data democracy and taking back our own data. And then I started doing videos and I come out with Jasmy, and it's like I must have put out 100 or 200 videos before I even got some views on it. Pretty much everybody was talking about like all the meme coins like Shiba Inu and all these other tokens, and it's tough, man, because like at that point it was just the best thing that I could give everybody was it was a Sony executive team, and these are the team leaders of that. And it's like, well, they have a PDL, and then you just try to dissect the PDL as much as you can, and then but now, I mean, fast forward today, I mean, it's amazing. You have Janction, and I think, as Jasmine incubated that project, I think we're going to see a few more come about, and I think they're going to really drive Jasmine's ecosystem for, I get it gives you a taste of what the Bitcoin of Japan idea or vision is. And they basically want Jasmine to be, forefront of this big ecosystem in Japan, and they're with the regulation and Japan just kind of really having a strong foot towards Jasmine. I mean, I think it's going to turn out to be a huge product because, I mean, if you come to think about it, I'm not trying to turn it into like a USA versus Japan, but there's always been like, hey, I'm this guy, hey, I'm this guy, and Japan, they've come out, well, especially Sony's come out with, you know, the best technology. I mean, if you guys understand, back in the days we had these Walkmans, then Sony came out with the
I still have a
CD.
Walkman, man. I
You know
still
what I
got it.
mean? It's
I still
like
have it for real. It's in a
it's
box.
it's like those are like you were cool as hell if you had a Sony a big ass CD player right there on the side
Right?
of you. You know what I mean? So
I
it's
wasn't a fan
just
of the Discman, but the Walkman was so convenient, man. It didn't
Oh
skip. It
yeah,
was so reliable.
yeah,
I let my tape
yeah.
rock till my tape pop.
Tape
Right,
pop.
Shook? That's right.
Sipping on what?
Private stock. Way back when I
The
used
red
to
and
have
black
the
lumberjack.
with the red and black and the orange
Lumberjack.
jasmine cap with the hat to match.
Alright.
Remember Rapping Dukes?
Uh-huh.
Never thought that
Next,
shit focus would take it this far.
this for
Oh
Now I'm
man.
in the limelight because Rob wants to rhyme tight.
tight
Time
A.
to get paid. Don't want to say blow up like the
Born sinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner?
Max is working on a mixtape, everybody. I don't know if you knew.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of 90s hip hop. Can you tell?
That's
Anyway,
right.
Yeah.
I
Represent.
think we all are.
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Shout out,
There's
shout out
good
to
and
the
bad in all music, though. In reality, there's good and bad. There's a lot of
Yeah.
bad rap too, man. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So,
I can't take some of it nowadays, man. I'll take
right,
Ice Cube all day
I get
over
right.
told
all
my
these
taste
new
in music
rappers.
is old. People tell me that all the time. They're like, "You got
Oh, you know what?
old.
I'll give you guys a
Update
treat
the
that's not
resume of music."
copyrighted, but at the end, I'll play if Rob has time. I didn't mean to cut you off, Shooks. I'm sorry, but what I was gonna say is, Rob, do we have time for the Jasmine Janction thing? Because I actually do have a little brief outline. I wouldn't mind getting everybody's 2 cents on if we have time. If we don't, I respect.
Yep.
Maybe it's a different day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
want to give a shout out there to Gamma Goddess, the one and only, of course, and Tom Lee. Decided to sell his office bed to buy more Ethereum.
Right on.
Well played, well played. Okay, Max, fire away, brother. Let's go.
All right. So big shout out to a guy I've been working with. His name is Jesus Oil Daniel. he's been helping out with some of the research and stuff, which is cool, right? You know, it's something that we do. First thing I want to share is this, and it's going to be on the screen. So listen, everybody, and again, when I chop this up, big shout out to Rob. Welcome back, Jimmy. Run My Crypto, and we have Shook Focus on board. Okay, so this is chopped up. This is from a live, but we're here now live. I want to point out some of these things. So let's talk about Jasmy. Let's talk about Janction. Basically, it's like this. We have gone from the era of 80s and 90s when it comes to your physical malls. Those physical malls have literally become ghost towns, you know, to the exception of select areas, right? Shout out to Rue. He's out in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? The snobby part of town, right? It is what it is. I'm up here in Northwest Phoenix, Peasantville, if you want to call it that. But guess what, everybody? Up in Peasantville, the Metro Center, it's a ghost town. They demolished it. Were there malls demolished in your area? So we're going from an era of physical malls to virtual malls. And in reality, so many people talk about like the metaverse and all these things, and it's just like, when is that going to finally take shape? Well, as the saying goes, the stilts, the foundation, you know, the concrete had to be poured, but there's going to be an influx flood of people going into some of this. So where are we going with this? Well, check this out. This is from the Wall Street Apes, and they point out new shopping carts will eliminate cashier jobs in America. Now, that sounds doom and gloom, does it not? With these shopping carts, you can scan all your items as you shop and put them into a cart. It even has scale for fruits and vegetables. Once done, you complete payment on the cart. And of course, there's this other stuff as well. I'm going to play this a little bit. There's no copyright on it and so on. But I want you guys to understand that when we talk about IoT as an Internet of Things, this is another example of this. So I'm going to play this for 2.5 minutes. We'll come back and we'll have a great discussion about Jasmy, Janction, and all these things that maybe some of you guys have forgotten about. So again, 2.5 minutes. We'll be right back.
Y'all see the new technology is out, right? Y'all see the shit. So you now shopping and shit. You can I think this is the one where you ring up your own shit, like when you put it in the cart. See, look at this shit. What that say? You see what this shit say? It say start shopping. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I think, right? This gonna put the motherfucking cashiers. No more. You ain't gonna.
All right. Sorry about the language on that one. But the point is, let's zoom out. You clearly see that this is another example of IoT. Now, with that said, fast forward to the now. On November 14th, Hara points out this, okay? He points out a little bit about what Rob, excuse me, shout out to Rue, what Rob mentioned at the very, very beginning of our collaboration, and that is, again, even with what Jimmy was talking about with like my number and whatnot, on the 14th, literally yesterday, Hara points out at the digital agency to promote initiatives aimed at expanding usage scenarios for local governments, private businesses. Jasmy's case study has been featured in my number card info section. I decided to get more into this section. And it's interesting to now see Hara posting more of not hinting towards my number card, but actually mentioning it in his post, okay? And if anything, I'm going to share this. Where are we going with this, you may ask? Well, here's where we're going. Hara points out this, and I get it's in Japanese, right? But some of this is interesting, right? So the area I want to put emphasis on is what you're about to see here when it comes to ISO, and more importantly, this area towards the bottom. Let me go down to it for a second. So did we forget about their ISO IEC 27001 certification? No, we did not. Again, why even bring it up again? Again, back to the shopping cart thing. Here's why. Because even on a basic Google search, you see the emergence of companies that are doing what? Well, they are trying to make sure that they're compliant moving forward. Now, you have heard the terminology Jasmy is the Bitcoin of Japan. Why do they get that title? Do they have anything to really do with Bitcoin? No, they don't. It's just a title because, if anything, back to what Shook and I was talking about, even with Swiftcoin, first movers advantage. If you are the one that's the first compliant one in a country that, for example, has really strict guidelines, way more strict than we do, that does give you some kind of advantage. And again, the term Bitcoin of Japan literally just means the first to become compliant. But even on a basic Google search, you see here, there's a company called Picaro, achieves ISO IEC 27001, and those certifications, and basically successfully completed SOC 2 Type 2 examination. That's a very, very important one for compliance. That was 3 days ago. Here's another example. Fineri Marcus advances institutional trust, achieving ISO IEC 27001 certification. I'm trying to establish and literally point out to everybody that it's not just Jasmy achieving these certifications, and it's just like, let's just dismiss that. Oh, no big deal. It's just, it's not ISO 222, it's 27001. That's not that big. It's big of a deal. It's a huge deal, and here's why. A day ago, MUC Consulting meets international management standards with ISO 27001, and even this other standard 37001, which I'll be honest, I have to study that one. But again, successfully, obtaining some of these international certifications. Again, another one 3 days ago, NAMSIS. Now you may wonder, I never heard of some of these companies. That's not the point. The point is, back to what Harwood mentioned, back to the original white paper, 2021, pointing out the want and need for small and medium-sized businesses, no matter how small or how big, for they can scale and, if anything, meet compliancy. Again, you can respect that Jasmy was the first to be regulatory compliant in Japan, hence the term Bitcoin in Japan. Here's another example. Hayden AI achieves this 1 week ago. Abacus Group achieves this a week ago. There's numerous other examples. Fineri Markets, Tandem, the list goes on and on. Now again, why are they getting involved with this certification more specifically, and why does it matter to you? And before we have our panel inject, it's how we look ahead to it all. Inject, we're coming to the whole thing of Janction, global official account, posts this, and most people missed it. On November 9th, they point out, looking ahead, Janction is building the decentralized GPU intelligence layer, where compute data and coordination converge on-chain. With the Janction, the JCT token, which obviously just launched not that long ago, right, a few weeks ago and so on, it's basically this whole thing of shaping an open AI economy owned by its contributors. Like he says, this is just the beginning. Now, I don't want to get so much about the tokenomics about it, but again, they point out building the decentralized GPU intelligence layer. When I see this terminology, it screams like connections to, obviously, things like NVIDIA. And why is that important? Well, I want to give this guy a shout out. Sometimes these guys on CMC just post a bunch of spam, but once in a while you get somebody that really knows what the heck they're talking about. And in my opinion, this person knows what the heck they're talking about. This guy's name is Easy World at Mr. Chosen One. He points out, you have here, basically speaking, this solid comparison where he agrees that the predictable performance and transparent pricing can outweigh slightly lower prices, especially for GPU-intensive workloads. But he believes that Janction, and hear me out on this, this is a smoking gun, seems to be positioning itself well for users who value stability and computational efficiency over pure price competition. And again, how solid is Render? Rock solid. A lot of you guys are invested in Render, but we get into some of these projects because we're like, well, you have connections to NVIDIA, and if anything, Render really stands out in that regard. But now to see Janction maybe be a disruptor even in that market, well, that's interesting. And how can we combine that with something like with what Jasmy already has established? Hear me out. Render still has strong network effects, broader ecosystem adoption, which could give it a long-term edge in scalability and marketplace liquidity. Ultimately, it depends on whether you prioritize cost efficiency, performance reliability on both projects. Now, this is where this guy's referencing this, and this is, again, also interesting. Shout out to actually this guy. He was the original person. He said he asked Get Agent on BitGet to compare deep in projects like Render, hear me out, and Janction. The results show Janction offers, and here's the kicker, better value if you compare GPU strength and predictable billing. So my point is, when you get more into the fundamentals of what matters here, if you just have basic researchers or people just in general looking some of the stuff up, what about what institutions will do moving forward? Render may look cheaper, but Janction pricing is clearer and delivers more consistent performance. He says he'd rather pay a bit more for reliable power and faster results than settle for lower costs with less efficiency. Like, again, this is quality, right? So it shows here, obviously the pricing tier is a little blurry because he took it with his cell phone, so I do apologize on that. But even here, you see the compare and contrast of what he's talking about with Janction compared to Render. And I'm not fudding Render, but I am looking at it from the point of view that this is worth pointing out, because at the end of the day, why point out any of this? Well, again, think about it. What it has, lower costs with less efficiency, faster results, more reliable power. I think this is big, and if anything, I wanted to get some of you guys' 2 cents about this. We'll come back into the frame on this one because, again, Rob, you've talked a lot with Hara about a lot of him, putting more emphasis on Janction. People who complain, obviously, about the whole thing of Jasmy and then going to Janction, they don't understand that we needed a layer 2 scaling solution. Centrality was not the answer for that. Janction is legitimately the answer for that. So we got all these things. Hara recognized all these wants and needs that were missing from a classic ERC20 token. And then he goes out and does what? Gets that interoperability done with Chainlink. So boom, check mark on this. Boom, check mark on this one. But again, to see this compare and contrast, I think this is big. So I first want to start off with you with some of your thoughts on some of this. And then obviously Jimmy, Shook, and so on. But I do feel as though to even have this mentioned in the same breath in comparison with something like Render, people are sleeping obviously on Jasmy going to a layer 2 because it needs to scale, and they're sleeping even on this opportunity with Janction. Take it away.
Well, I think so many people get paranoid and worried about, they see Janction token JCT and they just they feel like the team is abandoning Jasmy, and it's just quite simply not the case. I've done multiple videos covering this over the last, I don't know, week and a half since JCT got listed pretty much everywhere, and saying that at the end of the day, they do different things, guys. They don't do the same thing. Janction doesn't do what Jasmy does. To put it as simply as I can, therefore, it cannot replace Jasmy, right? So just to clear that up right off the hop. But you're right, I have actually spoken, and Render being like I believe in by market cap, Render is the #1 AI narrative project, I think. So that speaks volumes about the comparison right there, right? But I have had, in regards to the GPU, cloud and stuff like that, AI has been a massive narrative, especially over the last couple of months, right? Now, I've talked with both Hara and KJ about whether they planned on utilizing Janction's GPU processing power, their cloud, the world's largest GPU processing cloud, to incentivize other AI projects, AI agents, Web3 developers, stuff like that need this processing power to migrate over or launch inside the Janction Jasmy ecosystem. And I think that a lot of people are sleeping on that because they told me in no uncertain terms, absolutely, of course. So they're going to be providing extremely cheap, if not free, GPU processing power to these AI projects to develop in the ecosystem. And what other incentive could draw them away other than that? I mean, like, what would be better for a project than having extremely cheap or free GPU processing power to develop their own project? There's nothing you could incentivize them with outside of that. That's the bread and the butter right there altogether, right? So yeah, I absolutely, that's kind of my thoughts on it. They're using it as a weapon, and they're wielding it, and I think that they are going to rival projects like Render for sure.
Yeah, it's complementary. It's not competing. Why would
Yeah.
they shoot themselves in the foot? But your thoughts on some of this, Jimmy?
Yeah, no, when I seen, when I really got a grasp of what Junction really was, I was intrigued because render has always been on my radar. Fetch has been on my radar. I've had a lot of interest within AI and just some of those platforms and protocols. But when I seen Janction, I'm like, man, this thing Janction's gonna cover everything, right? It's gonna cover AI, pretty much deep etc. Now, the way that they rolled it out, and it goes back to like what Rob was covering with Hera, like this man has been everywhere pushing Junction, and a lot of people are getting upset because it's like they were saying, oh well, why did they go and create that? They're just gonna, basically squeeze out Jasmy, but that's not even it's like you said, it's not even it, because if anything is gonna fuel it. I always said that Junction was gonna fuel it. And I think it's, I've been trying to dabble around, go through Junction. I actually slapped the website on my header on X, because I want people to click on it. I want people to look at it and play with it. There's a lot of interesting thing. There's like a staking platform on there. There's quite a bit of stuff on Junction, and this is honestly, in my opinion, what Jasmine needed to actually get that boost. I think this is gonna really drive Jasmine higher, in respect of it having that layer two, and just having basically a machine working for Jasmine, because it's gonna be the connection that Jasmine needed to really produce the PDL the way they wanted to. I think it would even intertwine with the secure PC systems and stuff like that that they're trying to integrate as too as well. I don't necessarily know. I kind of lost sight and lost focus of like the secure PC portion of Jasmine as a project, because I was more interested in obviously Junction coming about, and then the PDL is pretty huge. I mean, that's basically what's driving their KPI system is utilization of the PDL. But I mean, I love Junction so much, man. I bought it at 7 cents all the way down to 3 cents. I was like, I wanted it. I wanted to hold it. I got it. People were talking, oh, you bought it at 7 cents. I knew it was gonna go. I didn't care. I just wanted to get it because I think it's gonna be valuable. And not only because it's a spawn or it was incubated by Jasmine, but the power that it has behind it to bring a lot of potential in utilization. I think it's going to be part of what helps Jasmine Junction become globally adopted. And then just looking at the video and stuff, I was tripping out. I'm like, um, it's pretty much a utility like this that basically spawns new world technology. As it's bittersweet to see something like, a grocery store having a basket there where you could check everything out and use that. Um, I think that's gonna be huge, because I mean these are things that we were dreaming about in the 80s, or the early 90s. Like, it's all these things that we can't even fathom are still ahead of us. Like, I mean, going into the next generation, what projects like Jasmine and a lot of other great projects can do is basically, it's going to change the way that the world works. People were so scared back in the late 80s to use the ATM card. I can't even recall when they came out. But when when they said ATM card, oh no, like it's cash or check, you know what I mean? And now it's like your phone, you got tap on your phone, and it's like the transition from going from honestly just 1980 to or 1975 to where we are now is like a huge difference. And what this baby technology is going to do is take that scope beyond imagination. And what you know, having that compliancy, like you were talking about the ISO compliancy, every big business, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's technology, whether it's healthcare, they all have to be ISO compliant. I mean, that's basically a company that says, okay, well, you're good to do business anywhere. You know, if you have that ISO certification, you know, tagged to anything. And to see how, like how you pointed it out, I mean, with uh you know, Jasmine having that, Hera putting it out, it's basically like branding it for every big institutional investor to say, okay, that business, that company's solid to do business with it, let's go ahead and dump the money into it. So I'm just like, you know, I'm really excited with Janction. I do believe that, you know, I'll Jasmine's gonna be my number one forever. It's like I said, I got this hat. I'm gonna wear it till we get there. You know what I mean? Got to get to that dollar. Once we get past that, I'll throw the $17 on there. But I'm telling you, like, I'm really excited for Jasmine. And you know, I'm committed to continue holding as long as I can. It's like I tell everybody, you know, it's a struggle for me to want to take profits, even if we do get to like some, you know, some price areas, because I really know that the long game of it, uh I would hate to be that guy who had an opportunity to have Bitcoin in my hand at like 60 cents and have over 100 grand of them. And imagine if I had that today, you know what I'm saying? And I see that, you know, I see that with Jasmine. I think Jasmine could go well into, you know, close to, you know, 30, $40, like, you know, within the next 20 years or so, maybe less. Who knows? I don't know. But we seen it happen in 10 years for Ethereum, and what, probably 10 years for Bitcoin or not.
Well, I
But
always tell people they should have an 8-year mindset in crypto,
yeah,
right? Too many people get indoctrinated thinking that, um, they're going to buy a meme coin and in 2 months they're going to turn $600 into 8 million, and then it's smooth sailing from that point on, right? It's the world's best kept secret. But you're absolutely right. I honestly don't know any, and I know a lot of crypto YouTubers at this point. I don't know any who made it to seven figures until, like, it took them at least 8 years
yeah,
to to
yeah.
really make life changing wealth for themselves, right? Um, you gotta. Sorry, Chuck. Go ahead, man.
No, you're good. That was actually a perfect softball toss between Jimmy and Rob there. Rob with the meme coins, Jimmy with the future. So my background is actually IT. So that's a lot of things that I look for with the projects is, are they building for now? Are they building for the future? If they have a meme coin, they're building for literally like maybe the next 3 years, maybe. Unless unless they got some huge metaverse attachment, or something like that. They're building for the now if they're in the meme coin. And
Or
with
a
what
T-
Max and with what Max just showed there, in terms of it, what I think of with Jasmy now is that data locker, right? That thing that he just showed me is 100% IoT. And IoT is, something of the future. I get to hear about it at work every day. So even if it's not Jasmy, right? If we take that shopping cart, I have to now enter my information in the shopping cart to go purchase something. Somebody has to protect my data. Like who's going to protect me? And so that's where something like that Jasmy data locker is extremely valuable, because like now I have to, somebody is looking out for my information. And then in terms of, like, I don't know if you guys heard of like the X402 thing. It finally got a name, but a lot of projects have already kind of been building for it. But AI to AI, so that IoT has some automation in it, some little AI piece that's going to communicate with something else when you go to check out or when you go to shop. And so that's that machine to machine talking. And so this Jasmy and this data locker, with everything that you just showed, again, it's positioned itself for the future. And that's what I look for with a lot of projects. Are you building for what's to come, or are you just trying to take advantage of what's now? And with use cases like that, as definitely building for the future. Shout out to what Jimmy said. Yeah, this is something we would have saw in cartoons or on a movie or something growing up, and it's like, what? So yeah, this is that was extremely bullish information. Max, Jimmy, Rob, thank you all for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that, and it doesn't stop there. And I think that that's the problem. A lot of people don't do enough looking into these projects to understand the importance of IoT, especially moving forward. You look at the My Number card just as an example, and we know that they're also working on almost an identical card in the EU right now. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Max, you might know the name of it, but they're utilizing almost identical technology. So there's been a lot of speculation as to whether they're using Jasmy's technology, and they just haven't talked about it yet. But it's only a matter of time before that's a global standard, guys. As much as people will fight it, it's no different. I don't look at it any different than I do CBDCs. They rip the name CBDC off, they slap the label stablecoin, and then and away we go, right? Eventually, that's going to be the standard, right? You're going to have these all-in-one identification cards that have a system behind them, like Jasmy's PDL, protecting your information, and it's going to have your medical information. Imagine being able to go from one doctor to another. I don't know what it's like in the States or anywhere else, but it is a pain in the ass to go from one doctor to another and waiting for one doctor's office to transfer your medical records over to the other one. Imagine just being able to have your personal identification card with your medical records on there that's easily accessible, your driver's license on there, your banking information on there, and it's all, again, encrypted and protected by a system like the personal data locker. Max, go ahead. I know you were going to say something there.
No, it's fine. I'm really glad you point out, even with what's going on with Europe. That's why, people were wondering for the longest time, why would I always include quant with Jasmy? Is because it's standards, and that in itself it's an inevitable collaboration. Like they'll be working with each other whether they realize it or not. But that's not the point. The point is basically recognizing, again, if I'm going to talk about ISO 222 mandates, which are coming up very soon, then again, let's go back to My Number, because you should look at Jasmy. It's like, what kind of mandates are they tied into? Well, obviously My Number, so I want to be part on the, of being on the winning team, if you will. I want to be part of something that's disrupted technology. If anything, will be part of a mandate. And so again, people wonder why is Jasmy part of your top 5? In fact, I have it ranked number 3. And that says a lot, because I'm into 45 plus different projects. And I, again, it's like, geez, you have it higher than some of these other, maybe potential ISOs. Yeah, I do, because I look at how they are positioned. Back to what Shook was talking about. It's like, this is disruptive technology. It's kind of like the kryptonite of, the centralized powers. We, Jesse's not here, KIR Finance, but when we talk about GAFA, right? Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, right? And basically, it's like, this is truly disruptive technology to protect data. And oh, by the way, again, I point this out, I think maybe in our last collaboration, Rob, maybe last week or the week before, X, formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk still has a huge data privacy problem on his hands. Japan is his second biggest market, with roughly 65 to 73 million, give or take, users. That's a lot of users. So again, if I'm looking at it from his team and his perspective, I say to myself, who could be your all-in-one plug-and-play solution to solve this? Now, maybe he's looking at it from the perspective of what we're looking at. Now, hear me out just real quick. I know we got to close it out. Maybe he was looking at yeah, I'm aware of Jasmy. I've done some research, and he's the richest guy in the world. He has a team. What was the problem before? The problem always was, and just think about this before you guys go for the night, he didn't have a layer 2 scaling solution. You had rumors of it, centrality. Now we have it. The plug and play is Janction. And number 2, we did address the whole thing of interoperability. You answered that with Chainlink. Okay, they're the
Yeah.
king of oracles. Chainlink is not going to do cross-border trade. Okay, Ripple will stand out in that regard. So, but when it comes to data-rich environments, who better to do it than the king of oracles with Chainlink? So, for one, Jasmy always got so much criticism about you guys don't do a good job when it comes to marketing. Well, Hara addressed that like, well, Chainlink for marketing, Chainlink for interoperability. He has hit, like you mentioned, Rob, every single T, but he does, Hara doesn't get enough credit for it. So with that said, if I'm Elon Musk and his team, which are clearly not, I'm looking at it from the perspective, look, regulations are going to come soon. If you don't get on board with this problem you have, you're going to lose one of your biggest market shares. Last I checked, Elon Musk is not about wanting to lose any of his biggest market shares. So would he look at something like Jasmy? Could very well. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. I'm not a fortune teller, but I can bring research and I can take 2 and 2 and put together and say to myself, if we're going to Web 3, which we clearly are, we're in Web 2.5, 2.7, then Jasmy has to stand at the forefront because the technology is already built. That's already going to be implemented into the Japanese governmental systems and so on. Again, my number card. Again, IoT. Untapped liquidity is one thing. Untapped data is the other thing that most people aren't explaining. And this is why I'll always be so bullish on the long-term potential, back to what Jimmy was saying, about where Jasmy can go. And apparently, I guess, at some point I might have to get some Janction, not financial advice, but that's the way I look at it. But they did what they promised to scale up. Go ahead.
You should reword that into a question and send it to me so that I can ask Hara in regards to the potential of talking with Elon Musk about working with X.
Sure. I still have that video pieced together. I'll be more than glad to piece that together for you, brother. I'll be honored to do that.
Wonder what his answer would be. That'd be interesting.
That'll be a curveball, but you better believe he's aware of it. Yeah. No, but that's huge potential, man. That might be one of the biggest things moving forward because, guys, come on, Shook, come on, Jimmy, come on, Rob, think about this. What does everybody talk about? I know I get passionate about it, but dang it, hear us out. Dang it, hear us out. So many content creators talk about the name or the main narrative of what platform would X use for payments. But what they don't talk about is what will X use to solve their data privacy problems. And what screams at the top of the rooftops, at the top of the mountain, Jasmy, when it really comes to it. Now, some people will say, well, maybe IOTA. I hold some of that too, because that's ISO 222. But always notice there's a common ground on this. So again, does IOTA take the cake over Jasmy when it comes to this? I would say no. And here's why. Because of Japan. That is the whole problem. That is his second largest market share. And you're going to say goodbye to 65 million to 73 million users when we move forward. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. If I'm Elon Musk, I am not going to do that. I'm going to pay attention to what's been built.
I also, as a little bit of a side note to that, I was also reading something about Hara hinting to, I wish I'd known we were going to talk about this, I would have brought it up, but hinting about potential ETP in Japan, right, for Jasmy. Now, if they could pull that off, and, for the people who are sitting there right now going, oh, why would Jasmy get an ETP in Japan? Well, as Max touched on earlier, they are the only legally regulated cryptocurrency in Japan. I mean, you could say Bitcoin is, but that's just more of a, well, it's okay. It doesn't actually have the legal clarity that Jasmy actually technically has, right? So for a project like Jasmy to get, an ETP in Japan, that might just be one more feather in their cap for Elon to take them more seriously, in terms of working with them as a business. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think we used this analogy last time. I think it was either on a Patreon or something like that. It was a private one. It's just like not to say that Hara would be afraid, but it's kind of like asking a girl out, some girl you're attracted to. What's the worst that's going to happen by asking? She says, no, I'm not interested. Then you go on with your life. It's not the end of the world, but at least you'll have your answer. So if
What if she says,
anything,
ooh?
what's that?
What if she says, ooh?
Well, then she
What's the
says,
worst
ew. Well, then whatever. But, my thing is, if I was Hara, I respect Hara. But, you can't look at like Elon Musk is out of his reach. Hell no.
Well, I'll tell him.
You go after him, man. You say, hey, look, we can solve your problems.
I'll tell him. I'll say,
hey,
if you're too shy to do it, I'll go talk to him for you. I'll see if you like.
Right. So if there is an ooh, there might be another one that's like, oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But whatever the case, don't get shook. Don't get shook.
All right, guys.
Let's
Let's wrap it up. I will. I'll send you guys messages, and we'll get you all back in for more blockchain buzz. So
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Absolutely. This was fun. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Shook, great to meet you, sir. Maximus, Rob, you guys are the best, man. Like it ain't nothing but an honor just to be here, man, with you three, just chatting about real stuff that people need to know.
We're honored to be with you too, sir. Don't feel
Yeah,
like you got to discount yourself too. You're a member of all this. A lot of people respect you too, brother. So
yeah, I'm glad to meet Jimmy tonight. I didn't know who was going to be on the show, but I'm glad it was Jimmy. I can vibe with a lot of stuff he's dropping over there. So I got somebody new to watch tonight. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for coming to watch. And we will see you guys next Saturday, 6 p.m. Central for Blockchain Buzz. Take care.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.